Greetings. My name is Simba. You would have probably seen me recently in the news advocating for a more people-centered cannabis industry in Barbados. I want to take a few minutes to respond to Minister Weir, who constantly is saying that the cannabis industry, the emerging cannabis industry, will not be like the past sugar industry. Minister Weir seems unable to fathom the depths of the conversation, the reasoning that places how the Barbados medicinal cannabis industry is being formulated, how it parallels that with the foundation of the sugar industry, sugar plantocracy in Barbados. Well, Minister Weir, as you would be well aware, the sugar industry was built on the backs of African slaves, of African people forcibly brought here and exploited. They had their tradition, their culture stripped from them. They were undermined, undervalued, and it is their hard work and their blood and their tears that built the sugar industry. 2018 to 2020, Barbados sets off to build a cannabis industry. After decades of persecuting, prosecuting, incarcerating people of Barbados, including and especially Rastafari, for the use of the cannabis plant for spiritual uses, for medicinal uses, and for recreational uses. The Barbados government sets off to create an industry that leaves out these very people. Minister Weir continues to say, he continues with his narrative that building the industry is a process. Everything is a process. Writing is a process. Breathing is a process. Preparation of food is a process. So that goes without saying. The problem, Minister Weir, is that in this process, the people that have felt the brunt and the weight of the cannabis prohibition, your laws, have been put at the bottom of the line in this process. Consideration for the people of Barbados comes way down in this process. A more just and moral process would have first considered the people who have been disadvantaged, displaced, exploited, and all means of brutish restriction placed on them for the use of this plant. The CARICOM Commission on Cannabis, which was tasked to bring information on cannabis in the region, reported that when governments were going to roll out their cannabis industries, their medicinal cannabis industries, they should consider the people first. All other governments have done this. Jamaica started, and when they started, they told the people they were now going to be allowed to grow 5 plants for themselves, and they're allowed 2 ounces on their person as they travel to and fro, Trinidad. I think it's 4 or 5 plants, They got it wrong at first. They said 5 meal plants, and we that know about cannabis was like, what, 5 meal plants? What are you going to do with 5 meal plants? But then when they realized their mistakes, good governance, much appreciated, they corrected that mistake. That's made it 5 plants. from St. Lucia, St. Vincent, other territories, every other place that is freeing up, or embarking rather on a medicinal cannabis industry has freed up the herb to some level for its people. Barbados, the best that Prime Minister Motley and the Motley crew could do was to say we're going to make under, I think about a half ounce, a quarter ounce, something like that, a ticketable offense, a fine that you can pay $200 for, not me $200. So I don't know if she expects to collect a lot of $200, but that is not people-centered. That is not even a good step in the right direction. The best that is that you're admitting that cannabis, really does not impact to that serious level the social dynamics of the island. And this is backed by what the UN just did when they reclassified cannabis from a Schedule 4 category, which said that it had no medicinal purposes, no medicinal use, to a Schedule 1, where it is saying that it does have medicinal use. So while it remains on their narcotics list, that you can be arrested for, like cocaine and, morphine, those plants that have, been used, as painkillers and, within the medicinal industry already, cannabis now finds itself there. So since we know that it has medicinal purposes, then obviously we should look at the traditional uses. Those who have been saying this from in the late 1920s to today, who have been persecuted for doing so, to say, well, we recognize the plant, as you say, has medicinal purposes, and you're allowed to use the plant for your traditional uses, whether you cook with it, whether you make tea, whether you steam it, whether you put the leaves in your bath water and you soak in it, whether, there are so many things that the government has considered under the traditional use of cannabis. But because this industry is money-centered and not people-centered, and definitely not patient-centered, I personally believe it is destined to fail. It is just bad karma. Minister Ware, at a recent town hall meeting which I attended, in his trying to prove that his government is understanding and sympathetic to the needs and the cries of the people, including myself, said that his government has given Rastafari a sacrament act. And he wrongly said that, that based on this act, all Rastafari can plant herb in their homes, and I want to tell my brothers and sisters this is not so. So if you do it and the police come to your house, it is a charge. Right now, the act says that Rastafari can cultivate and use herb at a place of worship by application, by permission from the legal office, which is the Attorney General's office, I believe. So remember, this is your fundamental human right. I don't know if some of you would remember when this particular bill was being laid in Parliament, the big empty speeches of all the parliamentarians. Minister Ford got up and said he remembered, trotting with the bingies as a boy in the pine. Politicians spoke about the contribution of Rastafari in the society. High honors, praise, kudos to Rastafari. The Attorney General himself said that we cannot continue, and I will never forget these words, we cannot continue to violate the rights of the section of our community, Rastafari. What did they do? You got it. They continued to violate the rights of Rastafari, and basically every Barbadian in such a vile way, I found it necessary to take the Attorney General, and by extension his government, to court to plea and speak up for what should be, or what is rather, my fundamental human right. The Sacrament Bill, which is now an act, it is now law, says that Rastafari can plant cannabis at a place of worship by application, as I said, and use it there, but they cannot leave from that place of worship with it. They cannot take cannabis to the place of worship. So if you're caught on your way to a place of worship with cannabis, you're in trouble. And it does not recognize the Rastafari home as a place of worship. My father was a Methodist minister. I grew up in the Methodist church. I grew up in a Christian household. And my home was definitely a place of worship. It was a sacred space. Any and everything can happen in my home. It was governed by a Christian law. It was a place of worship, a sacred space, they said. I know for sure the Muslim home is a sacred space and a place that they worship. In fact, anywhere they go, and the time comes for them to pay homage to their deity, they respectfully excuse themselves, and they do what they have to do. Give respect. From Ifa to Rastafari, it is the same. But the government of Barbados is making me, or has forced me rather, to go the legal route to prove that my home is a place of worship and must be included in their Sacrament Act. Really and truly don't really want to have to apply, to have my human rights recognized and respected. So that is something that we will also tussle with in the courts of law. Note that the government they chose to ascribe 3 lawyers to fight me. Those 3 to 1, they say 3 to 1 is murder. 3 to 1, my lawyer. I have 2 Queen's Counsels against me. This includes Sir Elliot Motley, the Prime Minister's father, Sir Leslie Haynes, QC, and a lady called Marsha Lockheed, 3 top guns to prove that the Rastafari home is not a place of worship, and that the people of Barbados, because it's a 2-pronged case, don't have fundamental rights to access cannabis and its properties for themselves. So we can't make our own teas at home freely, but we can purchase their drugs when ready, made from cannabis. What a thing. So Minister Ware, in the advent of slavery, the forming of the colonizations, and now neo-colonizations, one of the things that the former slave masters did was to deny Africans the use of their plants in their spiritual observances, even in some instances for the day-to-day medication and prevention of cures, because they saw it as something dangerous that would, inspire the slaves to rebel and all this sort of things. And you come now in 2020 and bring regulations, and bring an industry that excludes the people of Barbados, that excludes Rastafari, while at the same time trying very hard and very in a slick way to get the help of these same people without setting them free. You have a Rastafari sister that sits on your board, which the Rastafari community sees as nothing more than tokenism. That is offensive. I have helped in the development of your standards and your certification which I think it's a good move. I extended my hand and you slap it away. So much so that, I saw an ad in the paper saying that your cannabis license authority wanted what they call quality assurance inspectors. So these are people that are going to be going around to the different operations, cannabis operations, to make sure that they're complying to the standards set by the industry. I would have helped develop some of these standards. Being a poor man, I don't have a job, very poor man. I decided to apply. Really and truly, I just wanted to get a look at the growth. So what I did is I sent a letter. I emailed a request to work in the industry just for 6 months. Because I didn't really want to work for you, Minister Ware, or the government. I just wanted to see, for my people's sake and for my sake, what was really going on. You know what y'all told me? I have to apply like everyone else. Send in my CXCs, send in things. I don't have those CXCs. And even if I did, that is gross disrespect. Gross disrespect. I ain't talking about giving a friend a job or nothing. So I'm talking about someone that has worked and is working with you on one aspect of developing your industry and is asking to be able to work within that aspect of the industry. No consideration. So I want the people of Barbados to know the type of operation that you're really running. And all the pretty talk about 30%, and you've reasoned with me. We've reasoned many times in that way. And each time we agree to disagree when you continue to leave out the traditional medicinal use of cannabis. You cannot affect the sacrament and those other aspects that are outside of your ministry. So I'm not even going there with you. But I'm not going to allow you to use that to try and make the people of Barbados believe that your government is considering the people of Barbados or I Rastafari, because they're not. And I will continue to challenge you on this point until we, the people of Barbados and I Rastafari, see that you do better. So may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be humble and acceptable in the sight of justice for my people. And may the Most High Haile Selassie the First, Rastafari, Empress Menen, hear the plight of the people and in justice render good judgment and just judgment. I chant Nyabingi, judgment, death and judgment to white and black oppressors, those that would do harm and stagnate the progress of our people must be judged accordingly. For these few words, Barbados, I give thanks. Please share, please share.